Okay, this lesson is 9.7. I can find the probability of independent and dependent events. So independent events means like we have two events happening and whatever happens on the first event does not affect the outcome of the second event. Dependent events means what happens in the second event depends on what happened in the first event. So to find the probability of independent events, so the probability of A and B happening, A and B are two separate events, and in this case they're independent. We multiply the probability of A happening times the probability of event B happening. If they're dependent events, then we say that the probability of A and B happening, but remember this time what happens in B depends on what happened in A. We multiply the probability of A happening times the probability, we say B following A. So we still just multiply by the probability of B happening, but the probability of B happening is going to change depending on what happened in event A. So if I have an event like flipping a coin and rolling a number cube, we have to think, is that independent or dependent? So let's say the first event is rolling a 3 on a number cube and flipping a coin and landing on heads. First we have to think, is that independent or dependent? Does what we get on the number cube affect what we get on the coin? It doesn't. So these are independent events. So the probability of getting heads and 3, and I guess it should be in the other order. It's not going to change the answer on this one, but we should still be consistent. So it would be 3 and heads. The probability of getting a 3 on a number cube is 1 out of 6. The probability of getting heads on a coin is 1 out of 2. So together it would be 1 out of 12. Those are independent events. What if we say we have 4 oranges. So I have 4 oranges, 7 bananas, and 5 apples in a fruit basket. Okay, this is just the setup. We're going to have a couple examples here. So let's say for part A, you're going to draw a piece of fruit out at random and you're not going to replace it. So we're not replacing fruit for this one. What's the probability of choosing an orange and then choosing an apple? Remember, we're not replacing it. So if I draw out an orange, after I've drawn one out, that will change the probability that I draw out an apple the next time. So these are dependent events because the probability of picking an apple depends on what I drew out in the when I first took out a fruit. So the probability of getting an orange is 4 out of, I have 4, 11, 16 fruits total. So the probability of getting an orange is 4 out of 16. And then now there are only 15 fruits in the basket because I took out 1 orange, and there are still 5 apples left. So it would be 4 out of 16 times 4 out of 15. I can simplify that to 1/4 times 1/3. So there's a 1 in 12 chance that I will draw an orange out first and an apple out second. Again, those are dependent events because what happened in the second event depended on what I drew out in the first event. That changed this probability. Now what if I say we're still not replacing fruit after we draw it out? What's the probability of getting 2 bananas? What's the probability of the first banana being drawn out? Well, that would be 7 out of 16. Now, this is a dependent event because probability of picking a banana changes for the second draw based on what I got in the first draw. So now there's only 6 bananas left because I drew it out in the first one, and there's only 15 pieces of fruit left. So I have 7/16 times 6/15. So I have 7 over 16 times 6 over 15, and that gives me 7 out of 40 if I simplify. 7 out of 40 chance that I draw 2 bananas. Okay, example C. This time, after you draw a piece of fruit out, you're going to put it back before you draw your second one. So this time we are replacing fruit. After you draw a piece of fruit out, you're going to replace it before you draw the next one. First thing, I need you to put 2 answers in for this Canvas question. Are these independent or dependent events? Does what I draw the second time depend on what I drew the first time if I'm replacing fruit? The second thing I need you to put in is find the probability that you draw an apple and a banana. So you're putting 2 things. Is this independent or dependent if I'm replacing the fruit? And what's the probability of drawing an apple and then a banana?